Hello, and welcome back to Dr. Jordan B. Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. We will be wrapping up this book club iteration with the Coda chapter to wrap up the book. It only felt right to include it as Peterson even ends the section by saying he found that, asking what you'll do with your pen of light and what he did with his is the perfect way to wrap up his book. So I feel as though it needs to be included. So let's get into it. We can start with page 356. I had to give the book away, but I still have my notes here and I have a couple of photos of the pages I want. So fortunately I don't have the book, but that's okay. I have the necessary things. I had to reread the Coda to take my annotations because I didn't do it the first time, and it made things a lot clearer, and I didn't feel rushed when I was rereading it because I got excited the first time. Oh, I've almost finished the book, I've come so far. But rereading this part on page 356, Peterson describing how it's reasonable to not ask God to break the rules of physics to help you out, but maybe to help you see the truth or to better yourself in the future. And that does seem pretty reasonable, whether God helps you find that, if you believe in that, or even just yourself. I think you don't necessarily have to ask God to help you see the truth better. I think if you truly reflect on the situation, you look back, you use your 20/20 hindsight the best you can, even ask people that were there on how you acted or whatever it is that you're trying to reflect on. I think you can find the truth to help better yourself in the future. I think you can have all this self-reflection. You can't get too wrapped up in the mistakes. I know I do a lot. I think about my mistakes a lot, and it does consume you, and it's hard to get away from that. But the reflection is important, and you can find the truth in there. And then once you find how you think that you can better yourself, well, then focus on that. You understand that you made a mistake, or maybe you did something good, and then in order to better yourself, you either need to do something better in the future from that mistake or continue on that path of what worked for you in the beginning. Okay, so now we have the very next page, page 357. Peterson talks about how he and his wife, they follow rule 2 by treating yourself like someone you are responsible for when, maybe they get into a fight and a tussle, and you have to, treat yourself by also caring for his wife, but you have to negotiate for peace. And if you want to be right, well, then you're going to be right, but one, you're putting the other person maybe down or at a disadvantage, and honestly, you're putting yourself down. You aren't treating yourself with the proper respect because you aren't seeking for peace or to better yourself or to seek the honest truth between two people. And honestly, I feel like that also ties into the rule where you need to tell the truth, or at least don't lie. If you really want to seek peace and you want to seek the truth instead of seeking to be right, like Peterson describes, well, then you have to be honest with yourself. You have to truly, like we were talking about before, reflect on what went wrong or what maybe you're arguing about. But you have to be completely honest with yourself in the situation, and that can be really hard. That can be hard, acknowledging that maybe you messed up or whatever the situation may be, but you have to have that honest conversation with yourself. And I think a lot of the times deep down we do know the truth, we just don't want to believe it because that either means we're wrong or we messed up or something. But our egos and our prides get in the way, and we just have to be honest with ourselves about what we truly truly want to seek and what truly happened in the situation. Okay, page 359 is our next page. We have a quote here. Peterson says to aim continually at heaven while you work diligently on earth. And I like this quote because it helps to allay those feelings of, oh, now I forget the philosopher. If it was Rousseau or Nietzsche or something, I remember we discussed this before, but how they were saying how nothing you do on earth really matters if all you're trying to attain is just live in heaven. But I guess if you want to attain that heaven, you also have to work for it too, and you got to work diligently on earth to get there. And if you work diligently to try to attain heaven, well, I think you'll be satisfied with your life because you're trying to do the right thing. And we always can pretty much distinguish right from wrong. And even if we do something that may be pleasurable, afterwards we do know that it wasn't the right thing to do. And it can be very hard to swallow that pill, and that brings us back to being honest with yourself and to try to just better yourself in the future and to continue to aim for heaven. Because, well, it's a lofty goal. At least it's a light we can follow, something along those lines. We may be lost somewhere, but we kind of know the general direction where we need to go. And it's a simple but hard rule to follow. Okay. Page 362. Another quote here. Peterson writes, "Always place your becoming above your current being." And that brings me back to rule number 12, when you need to pet a cat when you see one on the street. But I remember I described about the becoming. In order to become something, you have to embrace the becoming. And I know it sounds a bit weird, but I think Peterson is also describing the same thing. Always place your becoming above your current being. It's in the same vein as we're trying to attain something in our life. And from reading this book, we want these rules to help guide us to live a better, more fulfilling, and maybe a happier life, a meaningful life. And in order to do that, well, one, we have to compare ourselves to who we were yesterday. And we also have to embrace this becoming, because we are transforming into a new person to try to better ourselves. And enlightenment is not reached quickly. It is a long journey. It's a tough journey, but we have to try to embrace that journey and embrace that metamorphosis that we're undergoing. And I don't want this to sound too preachy, which I think it might be. And I definitely don't have all the answers, but I think it's a good start to live by. Enjoy, maybe not enjoy, but to embrace the becoming of the person you want to be. Make sure you're bettering yourself today than you were yesterday. And in order to get anywhere, you have to start somewhere, and you have to be in the middle of a journey. And you just have to accept that and try to better yourself. Okay. Page 365. Again, Peterson. I remember this is actually where I read this quote from Rule 12, and I incorporated it. I didn't realize it was in the Coda. But Peterson says that maybe at a funeral you should be the shoulder to cry on. Be strong for your family members, and maybe even in death you become closer to the family members that are if someone else dies, not you. You become closer to the family members around you, and you strengthen those ties. But he also says to ask for strength in the face of adversity as well. And I really like that, because while it is nice to be the strong one at the funeral, and it may feel good and it may make you feel proud, like I said before, Jesus needed Simon to carry his cross, and you're always going to need, at some point in your life, someone to help carry your cross. And that can be very hard to let someone do that, and that takes strength. And while it may not be so much adversity to allow someone to do that, but any situation to ask for strength to allow the thing that you need most to happen. Either you need strength when you're down and you have to fight through something, or the strength to let somebody help you out. Asking for that strength and allowing it to happen is very important, and it can be difficult, but again, ask for it and embrace it and enjoy that strength. Okay, so our last quote here will be page 366 to 367 at the very bottom to the top. Peterson says, "The best way to fix the world, a handyman's dream, if ever there was one, is to fix yourself." And I like this quote because, well, you can't control everything in the world. When I grew up swimming, you're always worried about what the other people were gonna do. You were scared, oh, what if this person beats me, or what if they're ahead at this point in the race? And either your coach or your parent or whoever's talking to you, and this applies for almost anything in life, is you can't control what the other people are gonna do, but you can control yourself. You can have a game plan. You can know, okay, I'm not gonna be going as hard as I can at this point, so if they're ahead of me, it's okay, because I think I'm gonna come back. Or you just don't even worry about that person. Oh, are they gonna beat me? Well, I'm not gonna let that happen. I know in myself that I wanna win, or I wanna do this thing, and I'm gonna make it happen. You can control yourself, and it's a start. And Peterson, he also goes on to say, and that there's already there's plenty to do right there in trying to fix yourself. And I mean, he's correct. It's pretty hard to keep yourself on the straight and narrow and do your best you can with everything in this world, and your temptations and all that stuff. But fixing yourself is something that you can control, and maybe you can try to help others along that path. But trying to fix yourself is a good start for everyone. Because how can you try to help and fix others when you yourself are a mess? And we're never gonna be perfect, but at least get to a good and sustainable point, and then maybe we can branch out and start to help others. But fixing yourself is a good start. Okay. Then on page 368, what are you gonna write with your pen of light? And I've given this some thought, and I'm not exactly sure. That's a big question. And even though I've given it some thought, I still don't really know. My initial thought here was, well, I want to make my life better, but I want to do that by pursuing something that I find meaningful, which is a big, vague answer that doesn't mean anything at all. But I think what I'm referring to here is, at least with my career, I think I'm still searching for what exactly I want in my life, because it's tough. What am I going to do for the rest of my life? Well, it can always change, but at least in this moment, what do I really want to do? And maybe what do I enjoy, and I can incorporate that into the career. So what will I write with my pen of light? Well, hopefully I'm gonna write a history that I can look back on and be proud of these accomplishments, of something where when my kids ask, what does daddy do? I can explain that to them and be happy. And I want them to tell other kids, if they have a career day, oh, this is what my dad does. And we can all be really proud of that. And I can be happy with that. So far, I think that's what I'm aiming for with what I want to write with my pen of light. And hopefully there will be more to come. But that wraps up 12 Rules for Life. I did get the Kitchen Confidential audiobook, so I have been listening to that as well as reading it. It's a little difficult to, have a discussion because I've read about half the book by now because I only have like 8 days to listen to this thing. So I've been trying to get like my hours, like at least an hour a day in, so that way I don't lose the book. But I'll do my best. It's more of a pleasure read for me anyway, but I'll do my best to try to come up with some annotations and talk about the book, and I've written them down. But yeah, Kitchen Confidential's our next book, and I love Anthony Bourdain, so I hope you enjoy the book. Thank you.